head of our football operations, George Dells. Next to George is our assistant head coach, and it's Jason Taylor. Next to Jason, a man who needs no introduction whatsoever, your head coach, Jim McNulty. Our co-chairman, Mr. Simon Gage. Managing Director, Andy Duff. Director of the Rochdale AFC in the community, Ryan Bradley. Our recently appointed Director on the board from the Dale Supporters Trust, Vince Ashton. And then we've also got from the board, Vince Ashall, apologies Vince. And we have two other directors with us this evening, Tony Popney and Richard Knight. That is your panel this evening, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I know most of you are familiar with the surroundings here. We're not planning on testing the fire alarm this evening, so if at any point the fire alarm does go off tonight, it's not a drill. We just ask you to make your way onto the car park in an orderly fashion. And as I say, we're not planning it, so if you do hear the fire alarm at any point tonight, it is a real thing. I'm sure it won't happen. Right, usual drill with our fans forum. However, a little bit different tonight. We're just going to do it in one section. Okay, so we're not going to have a break. We're going to do it in one section. Like we always say, we're filming this live, or it's been recorded for our YouTube channel, so please be conscious that we've got some of our younger fans who are not here this evening who'll be watching online over the next few days, so please be courteous with your tone of conversations this evening. You'll get your chances to ask a question to anyone on the panel, and hopefully we'll all go away tonight looking forward to a trip to Yeovil on Saturday, and hopefully another 3 more points. So then, instead of sweeping the room, I'm just going to ask you basically, if you've got a question for anyone on the panel, put your hand up, I'll come to you with the microphone, introduce yourself to the panel, and one of our panellists will answer your question. So if someone's got a question, put your hand up, and I'll come to you. Here we go, first question, sir. If you just introduce yourself to the panel and fire your question.
Right, my name's Steve, my question's for Jim. I can't complain about anything, who can? But I just want to know the thought process behind something. A number of times we play and take the risk of not having a substitute goalkeeper on the bench. Could you just explain why, please?
Good question. Should we switch on, Andy? That sounds like it's good to go back. First question for you, Jimmy.
Yep, are we good? You hear me, Steve, yeah? Yeah, good question to start off with, and we're right into the thick of it straight away. It's just a choice. It's just a choice. It's my personal opinion to try and stack the bench with as much or as many options as possible based on the eventualities that I think might happen in a game. Am I aware that there could be a scenario where something could happen to a goalkeeper? Yes, without doubt. Do we semi-prepare for that with planning who would go in goal should it not be a substitute goalkeeper? We do. And we try to be as efficient as possible with our substitutes across the whole pitch, really, because the players as a whole are putting in a monumental effort, game in, game out, in a crazy schedule. And ultimately, yeah, it's a risk. It's a risk which I'm aware of every single game when we devise those selections on the bench. And yeah, we hope it's a risk that doesn't punish us, let's say. But it's a fair question.
Great answer from the head coach. Next question, put your hand up, we've got a question. I'll make my way down here. Just introduce yourself if you could and ask your question.
Hi, my name's Richard and it's for Jim. Just following on from that, which outfield player would go in goal?
Yeah, that changes game to game, if I'm being honest, based on who the bench is and who's already on the pitch. But there's 2 or 3 of them that we think are fairly handy, or I like to think they're fairly handy in that area, or at least brave enough or crazy enough to go in goal anyway for the team. And yeah, I won't name them here, but that changes game to game.
Okay, just one other question. Anthony Gomez Mancini, we've not seen anything of him, not even been on the bench the last few weeks. Can you say what the situation is with him?
Yeah, unfortunately, Anthony's pattern has repeated throughout the season, which is one of injury, close to returning to training or just returning to training, and then is trying to get near a team or a squad that is operating at a really high level. week in, week out, and then unfortunately, potentially at the point where he does challenge to make said squad, injury has reoccurred. So currently, Anthony has just returned from his latest setback, which was a groin injury picked up in training around a month ago, which kept him out for a few weeks. As I say, just returned and is needing training minutes, is needing match minutes. But as a team that is competing where we are in the league, match minutes can't be practice minutes in our environment because it's too important out there, of course, and there's players who are in rhythm, currently fit, currently strong, doing well, and deserve to be where they are. So without having a reserve team programme, people who have been unfortunate, such as Anthony, with injuries and lack of availability, have to try to find that rhythm and fitness in training, which Anthony's not been able to so far.
Great couple of questions there, thank you. Just going back to the goalkeeping question, let's hope we don't need to find out before the end of the season is the answer to that one. You've got a question, sir, just direct your question at the panel.
My name's Ian, and I'm asking on behalf of someone who can't make it tonight, so I think this might be for Andy. As the end of the match, these barriers are kept down for 15 minutes. At the other end of the ground, there's a barrier there. Is there any reason why that situation can't work there? My mate tells me it's quite narrow to get through. I don't usually so to get through with the barrier there.
Which specific barrier? I'm trying to work out.
By the shop. Pearl Street. By the shop, Pearl Street then.
I'm honestly not aware why that barrier is or isn't announced, but I'll chat with the head of ops and find out why. The one by the blue barrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's short, and that many people trying to get out. There's just a gap to get through like this.
That route, as it's called, is the blue route, which sits somewhere the ambulances have to come. So we have to keep that clear around the car park. So if there was an emergency, an ambulance or an emergency vehicle could get around the car park and into the stadium. It might be something to do with that, but I can ask the head of ops and find out.
Thank you, great question. Anyone else got a question here? This chap has a question. If you just ask the panel, just introduce yourself first, please.
Hiya Jim, Pete Woodhouse. I don't know if you remember, but at the last football forum, I asked a question. When we were leading in vital games, we made like a negative substitution, a defensive substitution, and took a forward off, brought a defender on, and ultimately in them games that cost us. I'd just like to say that this season so far, the substitutions and tactics when leading have been spot on, so credit where credit's due. I'm not taking the credit for it. But if anybody wants to buy me a pint, I'm open to it.
Great question and well put to Jimmy. Right, more questions here. Anyone got a question? Put your hand up if you'd like me to. I'll come around the room here, okay? Next question is from this chap. Again, just introduce yourself and direct your question.
Hiya, Tony Kaminskas. It's a question for Jim, please. Harvey Gilmore is having an outstanding season. He's a standout midfielder in the team and a standout midfielder in the league. Now, I was looking through the forum the other day and somebody mentioned contracts, and I think they said something about his contract's up in this summer. Personally, I think we should be moving heaven and earth to get him to sign a new deal. I'm just wondering, have you had any conversations with him or have there any talks ongoing? And just as an aside to that, what you're doing for the club is absolutely phenomenal, and I'll take my hat off to you.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for the final thing you said there. We appreciate it, it's very much a we, because the team, and by that I mean the wider staff as well, are giving everything, and we're always happy to hear any sort of positive return or happiness we are creating, so I really appreciate that. On Harvey Gilmore, I absolutely love him. I love him, I always have, and I always will. Whether he was with us or not, but not to spoil things, But I would say maybe watch this space in the morning.
I think that could be a clue to your answer. There's only one way to find out on the socials. I think the question you made is a valid question, because Harvey Gilmore, as with all our team, has been outstanding and a mainstay, and I think he's won the Dale Supporter Trust Player of the Month 3 consecutive months. So a great question. And from what Jimmy's saying, then watch this space, I think was the answer to that, Jimmy, wasn't it? Watch this space. Right, another question, please. Who's got a question? Okay, if you want to. There's other people than Jimmy on the top table, by the way.
Unfortunately, all my questions are directed at Jim. Sorry. In regards to my friend's question, how many of the current squad are on a, if you like, an extension to the contracts regarding the end of this summer?
I would say George is probably better at answering this question than myself. With that kind of stuff, he tends to store that information better than I do, because I'm often thinking about other things. But yeah, I do sit here quite proud of the work we've done contractually with our squad, and it's taken time, and I've spoken to all of you guys over a number of these fans forums now, over a number of years, about how we were building this over time, and how it took commitment from those players, and we were trying to make our key players, and as many players as possible, commit for long periods, which I think we're in a fairly good place on, George, no?
I think it'll probably take quite a long time to sit here and go through the entire squad, but we're trying to get it as Jim, the staff, the board, everybody has been aiming for, to a scenario where we're not getting to the end of each season with really substantial amount of players out of contract. There's constantly talks going on with some lads who are up at the end of the year, which we're trying to nail as many people down as we can. But there'll obviously be some turnover, and some who perhaps have still got a little bit to do to get that next offer. But there's, I think it'd be fair to say, a really substantial amount of the squad are nailed down beyond the end of this season. So we'd expect, wherever we are next year, the team not to look kind of, it's not a rebuilding job again next year. We've got the core of a really amazing group that we want to keep together for as long as we can, really.
I think on that point, just to add further, the owners, when they come in, I've often used the word continuity with regard to the Rochdale project, not just on the pitch but off it as well. I know with my own contract, my staff's contracts, the players that we've committed to, the players that we've added, that we do a lot of diligence into future-proofing the quality of this team. I think ultimately a lot of it comes from the ownership, that vision they have about supporting continuity, because the multitude of successes they've had across the business sector, which I know nothing about, they believe that's the formula for building anything. Patience, continuity and continued investment, and challenging everything internally to, can it always be a little bit better? And yeah, thankfully, as the head coach, that involves committing to our squad for lengthy contracts, so that we can continue to build and like I say, attempt to future-proof this squad.
Thank you. Can I also ask, the goalkeeper that we've had in National League competitions, is he on a contract from the United?
No, he's our goalkeeper. Yeah, he's on a permanent contract. He's our goalkeeper. He was released from Man United at the end of the year.
What's his name?
Hopefully that answers his question. He's not with Manchester United anymore. While we're on to contracts, can I just take this opportunity? We've got the Dale Supporter Trust and one of the members here tonight, and Vince Ashall is our appointed director. There are some members from the Dale Supporter Trust who are not here tonight, and we've had one or two questions submitted, and one of the questions is, and it could be for George this, it's in relation to Corey Edwards. One of the members has asked, can someone explain the situation with Corey, currently on loan at Stockport County? Can someone who are privy to any information what might happen with Corey Edwards when his loan period expires at Stockport County?
I think Jim's just going to talk about Corey himself
okay.
in a minute, and then we'll...
Okay, it's just one of the questions from the Dale Supporters Trust I was asked to ask.
yeah, with regards to Corey himself, Corey's found himself in a unique position with how we've changed status as a football club from a league club to a national league club. And we've had a constant conveyor belt of talent, which, you know, has gone back a long time and has served this club really well and continues to do so. With guys like Aaron Morley getting a move to a football league club recently, and you know we still see those guys from the past continually travelling through the football league and doing really well. Corey Edwards is unfortunate in that we're no longer in that place, and we no longer have the capability to support players in Corey's niche position of maybe not quite being at the consistent level of the guys that are starting in our team week in, week out. And of course attempting to support what has become a promotion attempt this season, and not having an under-21 squad, a B team, regular friendlies that we can support with a training ground, all these kind of things that are incredibly difficult to support as a National League club, which you simply just do not see at any of the National League clubs. We have the same difficulties. So we have a very good relationship with Stockport County. We have with business we've done with them and loans we've taken from their club and helped their players who've done well with us and again gone on to do what they're doing. And I think Stockport are obviously do very well, League One club, and again their vision and the change of that club took place earlier than they did here. And they have these sort of facilities in place to support the players' development, like Corey Edwards, so competitive games program behind the scenes that we just can't do. So for Corey to stagnate on the training ground for us is essentially a depreciating asset. And if Corey isn't, in my opinion, as the manager, because I'm the one that has to make that call, ready to displace Harvey and Eastie, for example, or Casey Petit or Edward Francis, who's just signed, then we're doing him a disservice by having him training and training only. And we believe that with our niche relationship with Stockport, something was put together whereby Corey's development continues within their walls for now, and it's something that's dependent on our league status next season. It could go one of two ways, but ultimately I believe Corey would probably end up at a league club next season without overstepping my mark. Whether that's with Stockport County in the league or ourselves back in the league, I think there's a high chance of either those scenarios being the case for Corey.
Thank you, Jimmy, and once again thank you to the Dale Supports Trust for that question. Any more questions? Put your hand up if you've got a question for Jimmy or any of our panel this evening. You've got your opportunity tonight to address any questions, otherwise it's going to be a very simple evening for us by the looks of it. Any questions? Here, Colin, you've got one. I'll let you ask your question to the board.
Colin Cavanagh. I don't know who this one's aimed at, but hypothetically, if we became an AFL club, what would happen with regards to the academy?
Thanks, Carl. Good question. One that we get asked all the time. I feel like probably the last 4 or 5 of these we've talked about how frustrating it's been following becoming a National League member club to have to disband something that took so long to build and had so many positive outcomes with players at all levels really making big impacts in the across the football pyramid really. It's interesting, Andy Simon and Tony and myself are with the independent regulator this morning. They genuinely can't believe the conditions whereby when you enter your 3rd season you have to disband your academy. They can't, as someone from the outside looking in, they can't believe that's a thing, because not only are you losing your EFL central funding, you're losing your ability to generate revenue through developing players and stuff like that as well. So we're expecting that might change in future, but we're already kind of in talks with the EFL themselves, and the aspiration based on essentially what Oldham have achieved. Oldham managed to win the playoffs on June the 1st, I think it was, and they were granted a provisional licence to run their academy kind of a couple of weeks later really. So that's certainly where we're at. If we are if we are successful in our ambitions at the end of the season, we'll be rejoining that programme as soon as possible.
Thank you, George. Does that answer your question, Colin? Any more questions? I know there's some people at the bottom of the room here. Sorry if I've missed you, but if you've got a question, please put your hand up back over here. Once again, just introduce yourself. Oh, it's George. Sorry, George. I recognise you. George Brigham. Go for it.
Sorry, it's me. A couple of questions, really. First, Jim, can Harvey expect a Valentine's card day from you on Saturday? And secondly, more to Simon and Richard, who we're all eternally grateful for what you guys did in bankrolling the club to get us into this position of new ownership now. I just want to know your view life as a football club director nowadays.
Great question. Great question.
I bought my Valentine's card today this morning because we're away at Yeovil this weekend, so the wife and daughter's Valentine's Day cards are sorted. I don't know, maybe Harvey will buy me one, I don't know.
3 points would be great as well. So you wanted to ask perhaps Simon or Richard or Tony Potney. A great question, George.
Yeah, I think life's a lot different now under this regime. You don't have to be meeting every Friday working out how you're going to pay the bills or for the following week and manage cash flow, and it's all about long-term planning now, and it has been from the minute the takeover happened, really. The players on longer contracts and the whole continuity fee totally changes. So yeah, it's great now. Football's great. It's long may it all continue.
I don't know whether Tony or Richard want to add to that as the directors. I think Simon's probably covered that, but great question. And thank you for answering it, Simon. Okay, any more questions this evening? I'm going to Lee Percy. I knew you'd have a question, Lee.
It's probably a question for Andy or Simon. Just wondering if you've any further updates on the training ground, where we're at with it, etc.
Could be Ryan. Sorry,
Ryan.
Depending on what he says.
Yeah, I went to the last meeting, so I can't remember what update Jamie gave. Cab meeting, was it? Okay. Yeah, we're down the track with it. We've got a site identified, working really close to the council. There's been a couple of meetings that have gone through council meetings over the last couple of days. So you can do a bit of background reading there, but there's nothing we can formally announce, but we are a lot further on and very close. I think from the training ground perspective, I don't think we'll be ready in the next 12 months to sort of to move into there, but we'll certainly be putting spades in the ground and getting that going soon.
I guess what I was going to say, we George and I were at Platt Lane a couple of months ago and renewed that for next season, so that will remain our training facility for the first team for next season. And then as planning goes through and all there'll be a hybrid use between like men's first team and community trust, which is why Ryan's involved as well. But more news will probably share it, but not yet, I'm afraid to say.
Okay, thank you for the answer and thank you for the question. Lee, any more questions for the room? Put your hand up if you have a question. All right, I'm going to start. Oh, you've already had a question, sir, so one more from you. Go on.
I remember coming back to a forum about 12 months ago, perhaps 18 months ago, and it was announced that the anticipation was to build the crowd to 5,000. Where are we with regards to that expected optimism that comes from the board?
Project 5,000, yes.
Yeah, I think the ambition was to try and get a crowd of 5,000. What did we have at the weekend? 4,725. So and of which about 1,300 were Carlisle fans. I think across all metrics, so 2,315, I wrote down before, is the number of season tickets we have, which is significantly up on last year. Our match day numbers are up year on year, which is great. And actually just last weekend, we passed the same revenue target that we did all last season. We actually passed it just last Saturday when we played Carlisle with 8 or 9 home games still to go. So it's going in the right direction. I think there's lots of work going on. There's lots of work that also can still go on around making the fan experience better, improving the stadium. We had a marketing push to try and talk about exactly behind us, asking the town to get behind the team. But it remains the ambition to try and achieve that. Although there's lots of work to be done, because that would be an historically high level that we can achieve that. But it remains the ambition to try and do that.
Yeah, thank you for the answer, Andy. I think we can all agree attendances are going up. We're the top of the league. We're building something really special, and we all want to get behind the team. So tell your friends, your neighbours, your work colleagues to come down to Crown Hall Arena, because you're not going to be disappointed. Right, next question, you sir.
Hi, it's to George this. Do you think the EFL will ever pass the vote for 3 being promoted out of the National League?
I might pass this back to Simon. I don't know. Interestingly, we had the conversation yesterday of hypothetically, if we were successful in achieving our aims at the end of the season and the vote took place in a year's time, let's say, how would we vote? And it's not straightforward. Obviously, people have their own self-interests, clubs have their own self-interests, and we kind of batted it back and forward a bit and kind of came to the conclusion where we don't know what we'd vote. We'd have to wait and see what our kind of thought process was across numerous individuals if we were a EFL member club, and whether our opinion had changed. Obviously, the 3 Up campaign has marketed itself as this is the best solution for football, and it is. It's definitely the fairest solution. But it's easy for us to say that when we're on the end that's going to benefit. It's not as easy as for us to say that if we're on the end where there's potentially a greater risk of coming out of the league. So yeah, I don't know, Simon.
Yeah, I sit on the National League board as well, so I think probably from the point of view, it's been a very successful campaign the National League have run. They've got the topic out across the whole country, and they kind of won the argument. But in direct answer to your question, I suspect there's probably quite a lot more at play than just the one extra promotion place. So I think everyone accepts the argument is true. It makes teams like York and Carlisle, Forest Green spend exceptional amounts of money to try and get that one automatic place, and it doesn't add to the sustainability of the league. So I think how the argument will go is that there's a whole redistribution deal that's got to be done in football. Just to give you some idea of the difference in finances, when you're an EFL club in League 2 and you run an academy, you're probably in the region of around about £2 million worth of revenue. After 3 years of dropping down to the National League, your revenue from football drops down to £100,000. So it's a massive drop off, 96%. Now, at the minute, the FL want to tell you about the drop off between the Premier League and the Championship, but it's miles greater than that. So I think the argument will develop now over the next 12 months. And talking to the regulator today, it very much comes on their radar is that it starts to get linked to a redistribution deal, and the EFL won't give us, I don't think, the extra promotion place, because they'll want to keep that as a bargaining chip as part of this redistribution deal that might eventually happen. If it doesn't happen in the next sort of 18 months, the regulator does have the backstop power to impose something, and by linking the redistribution deal and the structure of football, it all drops under the IFR's remit at that point. So I don't think it's going to be a quick solution, no. So promotion to the one guaranteed spot's probably going to be the way out of this league for quite a while, yeah.
Thank you, Simon. A great point and a great question. I think we all agree. The National League, look at Wrexham, 15 years to get out. It's such a difficult league to get out of, and that's why we need to make the most of the opportunities we've got at the moment and keep doing amazingly well that we're doing. Right, next question, because it looks like we could be wrapping this up soon. Any more questions here? Put your hand up. Well, if no one's got a question, I'm just going to mention the guys. Oh, it's the guys from OYM here.
It'll be a YouTube documentary series, so that'll tell us probably the story, not just the last 18 months since the Ogden family came in, but also some of the time before that, and also record and capture a lot of the stories around the fans and the community. So there'll be a number of people here that'll want to speak. I know, Alison, sorry to pick on you, but I know the guys were down in Billabout today talking to you and your own particular story with Rochdale. So obviously, if this is a successful season, it would be a massive opportunity to capture that. And that'll be broken down into a 6-part YouTube documentary, which will be coming out over the summer. So you will see them around probably a few more times, and there'll be a lot more contact between Jack and Callum and the team and different members of the CAV and the Supporters Trust, etc.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. I do actually have a question for yourself. Sorry, we've never been to a fan forum before, and I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to be this positive. I was convinced someone was going to moan about the pies. My question to you is, how proud are you right now? You know, what is going on, this movement? This is pretty exceptional to come to a fan forum and not get a complaint at all.
I'm not sure. I've been here, just come to 2. I'm not sure I've ever been to any difficult fan forums. I know I was chatting to Greg. Yeah, I was chatting to Greg beforehand, and he was saying life before a fan forum in the office was sort of, okay, what we're going to walk into. And Tony and Richard and Simon, forgive me all, have had very difficult fan forums. Yeah, we've had conversations around things that need improving. I think, again, one of the questions that came from the regulator today when we sat down, particularly was around fan engagement. So where does the club sit on that kind of metric? What has the club done? And we took through the kind of positive steps that have happened around, the club advisory board, the relationships with the Supporters Trust, and we particularly talked about Dale 1907 as we sit looking at one of the boxes, etc. And there is genuine open dialogue between, I think, us, the owners who are around and very visible, Simon, myself, except the other directors, George, Jim. So that's just been a kind of way of being for the last couple of years. So. I've not been to that many difficult fan forums. There are lots of questions about improvements we can make, and there's been investment done in the last 18 months off the pitch as well as on the pitch as well. So hopefully we're moving in the right direction.
Right, thank you, Andy. Just covering the point, Jack and Callum are here. So as Andy's alluded to, there is a documentary getting filmed tonight. You've got an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, after the fans forum. If you want to go into the Dale Bar here, and you can do a piece to camera and tell the guys where you sit and what the club means to you. It's a great opportunity tonight and a great bit of publicity, and thank you once again to Callum and to Jack for being here this evening. As I say, feel free to go in at the end of tonight and just tell the camera how much you all love Rochdale and how great it is at the moment, and we'll spread the message. Right, any more questions before we wrap things up? I'm just going to turn around just to make sure we've not missed anything. Any more questions?
David, I had a couple of notes, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, sorry, could I just go to Peter first? Peter's got a question. Peter just celebrates his 90th birthday, by the way, at the Crown Hall Arena against Southend, wasn't it? 90. Don't mind me saying that, Peter, but you've been a long-time fan, and I know how the club means to you, so I'll let you ask your question.
I'm rather pleased to be able to... Is this on? Yes. I'm rather pleased to be able to sit here and say this, because I've been a supporter of this club since 1957. I know I'm an old bugger. I'm enjoying life to its full, and I enjoy coming here as much as I possibly can because I'm well looked after, and I know all supporters are looked after. But I've never known for many a year until this year that I would expect such coordination of a club as this. Everybody, when I walk in through that door now, you feel as though you're going into a friendship. And I think that's one of the main things why we are in the league, because everybody is pulling together. And I'd like to say a great thank you to the work that the directors are putting in, the staff of Rochdale Football Club, and mainly, as well, which they don't get talked about a lot, the general staff that keeps the place ticking. And if we can keep together, the 5,000 that we're trying to get, we'll get it. Because I remember years ago, going back many years ago, somebody saying, "Where's Rochdale?" And it was no Canton when he was at Coventry. And they came up here in the FA Cup. And we're sure where Rochdale were. We beat them. So we can do it with others, we can carry on and do it. You've a team out there that's working the ball. Sorry. That's working the socks off. And, just let's get behind them and let's tell everybody, get up there and enjoy it. Because if we do that, we can say, well, we've done our bit as well. Thank you very much indeed.
Can I just add to that? Jimmy, if you're looking at a tactician, me and Peter share a car journey home after every game, don't we, Peter? And we analyse the game, and he's a superb tactician. So if you're looking for any tactical advice, Peter's your man. Fantastic, Peter, and well done on being such a fervent fan of the club and continue to enjoy coming to the Crown Hall Arena. And I thoroughly echo everything you said there, Peter. Right, have we got any more questions? I know Andy and Simon. Oh, someone's making me work. Right, sorry. Hopefully the microphone will go this far. You just, hi mate, just direct your question please, thank you.
Hi, Roy Taylor. Going back to the 5,000 home crowd, last Saturday when we played Carlisle, there was a lot of, I won't say, conversations over us only allowing them 14,000 tickets when the away end holds, 1,400 tickets when the away end holds 3,500. Is there a positive reason for that? I've been led to believe it was a policing issue.
Yeah, I'll take it. So there's about 2 or 3 different dimensions to that, and I won't put words in Jim's mouth, but Jim can, if he wants to add into it. Couple of things have happened over the time. Firstly, as a group, we were all really disappointed the way we were treated when we went to Carlisle. You know, so that was the first thing. We didn't get a lot of tickets. I didn't go, but I believe the facilities were awful. It was uncovered, etc. So there was some conversation at that time saying, you know, that's not a great way for our fans to be treated, and you know, we want to think about that when their fans come to us. Just so you're aware, in terms of statistics, we have to give 50% of the ground capacity to away fans. That's the minimum we have to give. It's a league requirement. The other piece was around, you know, the way that the stadium is currently laid out, and I think about the Oldham game last year, when that Wilberts Lane stand is full of 3,000 fans. Again, Jim will comment, but it gives away some of our footballing advantage, some of our home advantage, and it's a much more intimidating environment for the match. You know, we are trying to get promoted, etc. Now, reducing the number of fans in that stadium has a financial impact. So, you know, if you call that 60, 70,000 quid and you take a couple of thousand off, you're looking at a 20, 25,000 pound conversation. As a board and in conjunction with the ownership, you sat and said, what do we want to do with Carlisle? And so you'll notice that both of the ends are netted off and the first 8 to 10 rows are also netted off to try and push the fans that are here as far and as high up that stand for footballing reasons. And the decision was made about 4 to 6 weeks ago as that fixture came into focus. How many fans do we want to give them? And it was an active decision to give them the minimum 15% required that we needed to for footballing reasons to give us the best chance of winning that match.
I think Simon's going to add to that, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that as well, when you're talking about wanting to increase our fan base, we've had some pretty bad experiences on some big games. Spennymoor didn't go as well as the result, didn't go particularly well with crowd trouble afterwards, and you think back to all, certainly since I've been at the club, all the Oldham games where there are 3,000 fans in there. It's a big game, our home support goes up significantly for that, but the atmosphere inside the ground's been pretty tense and not very pleasant for a lot of those games, and I don't think it encourages them people that we might attract for a first time view of Rochdale on these big games to come back again. So I think it's something you'll see more and more going forward, that will think about more about security and segregation so we don't get these tense incidents happening, so it becomes a friendly place, like has been mentioned, to come and encourages people to come back again, whether that's with children, trying to develop the women's game, so ladies come in and it's an environment for everybody, and giving 3,000 fans over there for nothing else doesn't encourage that environment generally.
Great answer. But just for a second question, just alluding to the point Simon's made there, we've got Izzy, Fiona and Leanne from her game too, who worked tremendously hard to engage our females in the town. I think these ladies deserve a huge round of applause, they really do. There was a young lady here on Saturday called Eden, who's had a really tough time over the last 12 months, and she came to the game and the delight on her face, and she met one or two of the players. The sponsor gave her the match ball sponsor, and she had a terrific day, and you ladies made that day really terrific for her. She's had a really, really tough time, and that will spread the gospel around the town and the community, and we all know we want to get to 5,000 fans. Just bring your friends down, bring your workmates, bring your family who don't come to football. They'll love the experience. Right, any more questions before we just go over to Andy and Simon perhaps? All right, okay, sorry. This could be the last one, I think. Question here. If you just ask your question to the panel.
I just love that last answer about Carlisle. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I hope it doesn't come to it, but what had happened with the York game, last game of the season? Would it be a sort of similar thing with them?
I'll give you a theoretical answer, but I would be surprised if we didn't take a similar approach that we did with Carlisle. The only other piece I would add, and this was a kind of live conversation this week, was I think we might actually look at more semi-permanent segregation. You know, we have used some of the flags that we use, and we use some other things as well. But to try and make sure that we had the best home advantage in that match would be a critical thing to achieve. So obviously we need to make sure that that York has the appropriate number of fans to meet our regulatory requirements. But it fundamentally comes down to we have the fortunate financial ability to make the right decision for football reasons. We don't have to have the income if it's a particularly important match. And at this stage of the season, they're the decisions we're able to make, and we're able to make the right decision for football reasons.
Thank you very much, Andy. I think that is it for the questions from the floor. Is there anything that Andy or Simon you want to add?
It must be worth maybe as a wider group. I'm conscious of some of the CAB conversation that I just thought since we'd last sat here, some of the changes that had happened, and it was sort of how quickly you forget some of the things. So as we sat here last time, the refurbishment of the 1907 hadn't happened. Obviously that happened in September and seems to be an enjoyable match day environment. From an Ogden point of view, Dale Futures, which is the kind of alternative provision facility that's based in Wilberts Lane, that is now up and running. And that hadn't started at the start of the season. As I said, we have 2,315 season tickets, which is up on last year. The IFR, which has been mentioned, the regulator, came into legal effect on the 1st of November, and that protects a lot of the interest of the people sitting in this room around anyone's ability to change the crest, the colour, to affect this stadium, etc. That is now protected in the regulatory framework, which is important for fans to know. It's not been mentioned, but it is true to talk about the massive project which was a pitch rebuild in the middle of the season. Last night was probably the single biggest test of that, as we had 30 millimetres of rain. 1 or 2 games were called off on Saturday, but it was great that we were playing last night and to continue that as well. And then also to mention, alongside the pitch and the support that we got as a group moving to Accrington Stanley, and particularly people like Dale 1907 helped, and the Supporters Trust as well. So that was a massive movement for us in the last couple of weeks. And finally, I think the work that the CAB is doing, and particularly Ruby in her role, has been a big step forward in terms of the communications we're having as a group and nights like tonight. So just reflecting on 6 months, it's amazing how much has actually gone on, and you just think of the last week or two, but a lot's happened since the start of the season.
Thank you, Andy. Just talking of travel, we all know the atmosphere in the stadium is fantastic. What we do have is a fantastic away support, and if you want to go to Eastleigh on the 14th of March, then Emma's here tonight, and you can go and see Emma and book your place tonight at the Trust Desk and get yourself on the road. We've had, I think, 4 or 5 home games. We've got an away trip at the weekend, and then we're back here on Wednesday against Scunthorpe United. Andy, did you want to add something there again? Sorry,
Vincent just reminded me. We had a question, and I don't want to. We'll finish on a positive rather than a challenging topic. But there was a question asked around Pearl Street. I'm just going to get some notes up. Pearl Street and managing things on a match day in the broadest sense. And obviously there was exits at Pearl Street, and I see all the forums, etc. It's probably useful context for me to share what happens a week or two before a game. So firstly, as context, weeks. 1 week, week minus 10 days, week minus 2 days, and we have both pre-match meetings, and it's important to know we have post-match meetings. So we look at the feedback and we understand that people had a good or a bad experience, if there's been issues on a day. It's great that we can hear that feedback, because our objective is to try and make it better every time. A bit of context for everyone to be aware of before Carlisle, and some of this we aren't able to share because it's sensitive before a game. So we'll know that just this week, and it'll be announced shortly, the club has received a charge from the FA regarding the Spennymoor fixture. So there'll be a financial penalty that we will receive. But more importantly, there was a number of sanctions put in place, or a threat of sanctions, unless we did some mitigating work to control crowds, because there was a feeling that we didn't plan that game very well. Fundamentally, it was deemed as a riskier fixture. At that point, our security wasn't managed in-house. We were outsourcing some of the functions, etc. So that that charge was announced to us the weekend before Carlisle, and we were put on best behaviour, I can put that word in, and being aware that that game was coming up. Secondarily, unfortunately after the Boreham Wood game, there had been some antisocial behaviour as fans left Pearl Street and looked to engage with away fans that were leaving, a small number of away fans that were leaving Boreham Wood. There was a minibus or two with middle-aged to elderly Boreham Wood fans, but some of our supporters looked to engage in some antisocial behaviour. So again, that had to be dispersed, and we were asked to look forward to the Carlisle game. The third piece around Carlisle, which was sort of surprising for us as a club, because we didn't see it, while it was designated a high-risk fixture by Greater Manchester Police, we didn't see it in any way going into the game as some of the tension that they did. However, as 5 days went to 4 days and 3 days, Greater Manchester Police were significantly concerned around that fixture and around potential problems between fan groups, and asked us to take certain mitigating circumstances. So we approach every game with that knowledge, and each game has a slightly different footprint. You know, we look at the Scunthorpe game that's coming up on Tuesday night, and that already is a medium risk fixture. They've got over 1,000 fans, so we have to treat that game with a certain amount of precaution. So decisions were made for Carlisle to do a couple of things. Firstly, during the game, there was a conversation with Manchester Police back at the HQ quarters to allow the away fans to clear the stadium and clear the streets before we kind of reduced the game our fans. So the decision was made to open up one section and to put some barriers up, which people have talked about. We had stewarding that people needed the toilet, they were able to do so, etc. But it's very much a kind of dynamic live environment that we're operating on a match day, depending on what's happening both inside the footprint of the stadium, but also outside in the town of Rochdale. Again, there are certain things happen and have happened this season, which I won't go into this evening, but that affect what we have to do on a match day. I do acknowledge we've got a new, CSG have come in. We had some feedback right at the start around some robust stewarding. I think my gut would say about October, November, we got into a kind of pretty good place of, I'd say, common sense stewarding, when we were managing it with those. I think my own view is a little break over Christmas. We've probably gone back to a position where that's possibly a little bit more robust than it needs to. So we sit down and have a steward briefing every week. We have a review every meeting, every match, and talk around the particular things. So it's just useful context for me if that's to explain what happens in and around every game, and understand that certain games we have to treat it in a slightly different way, which might have slightly more robust entry and exit rules than other games have to. And that's it. As I look at the fixtures ahead, again, I was chatting today, Scunthorpe looks like it might be a lively fixture, but actually the rest of the season looks pretty low risk. So the stewarding might reflect that, and the kind of pre and post match stewarding might reflect that.
Thank you. Right, I think we're going to draw it to a close there. Don't forget, we've got the guys from OYM. This is your chance tonight to tell the whole world how much you love the club and where you sit and what the club means to you. Thank you everyone for coming this evening. Thanks for being so patient with us tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you here on Tuesday night against Scunthorpe, or maybe you're going to Yeovil on Valentine's Day. The perfect gift for your loved one is 3 points for Rochdale. Let's say a big thank you to our panel. George Dells, Jason Taylor, Jimmy McNulty, Simon Gage, Andy Duff, Ryan Badley, Vince Ashall, Tony Potney and Richard Knight. Give them a huge round of applause, guys. Thank you.